Put your gun down, please. 3, 2, 1!
We're the 355. The old wars. Cold War. War on terror. We knew who we were fighting. But now the enemy's invisible. They can destabilize entire countries.
Oh, come on, man. Let it throw.
Officially, I can't put you on this. But if you were to go out on your own,
I would need some help. I'm guessing this isn't a social pool. I'm putting together a team. You're the best in the world at what you do.
I thought this was done.
I'll be back for dinner tomorrow.
Hands! Put your gun down, please. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1! Pull the trigger!
Or you can listen. We all work for different intelligence agencies. American, British, German, Colombian, Chinese. But now we have a common enemy. And if we don't stop them, let's start World War III. So we need to join forces. You have cameras in your jewelry, comms in your earrings. This is like half the CIA's most wanted. You bump, I grab.
I like the new team.
We'll take it from here.
I've got 4 more agents out on the street.
I got the stick. Thanks for the tip. Llamo mamá para la casa. I have 2 children. I am a normal person. I cannot do anymore. That's after right now. You go home. You bring them with you.
Sailings all the way to the
Stay
side.
under control? Are you? No. We put ourselves in danger. So others aren't. We're the 355.
Hi, my name is Curtis Peterson. I'm the
I wish
editor
he
of
was
Strong
nice,
Football
man.
with Coach
I wish he was good,
You might
man.
also know me as Coach Steve.
Come on, man.
Today I'm going to talk to you about cover 4
Win,
versus a
Fumbling,
2x2 set.
throwing to the sideline.
Cover 4 is great coverage because it allows you to defend 4 verticals
Ball.
and play the run pretty stout out of the box. Where cover 3, you know, you're going to have to
Can't do
make some
that.
adjustments versus
Ain't
2x2
man.
formation because of the threat of 4 verticals.
You made a mistake.
In cover
Yeah.
2, you get the same problem. And basically your safeties aren't in a great position to support the run right off the bat. So I think cover 4 is a great coverage. There's a lot of different ways to play it, and I've got 2 drawn up here. First thing you should know is the field is over here, boundaries over here. You can see the hash
Sports, how
marks.
you doing, brother?
They're probably not
Konnichiwa.
scale, but
Oh, you
look
good
at it down
mas?
here. So the things I want to talk to you
That's
today about
sports.
are basic.
Shout out to Purple City,
how to
man.
How to play the
Love
pass.
y'all, man.
How to play the run is a different video.
Thank you, Smalls.
But the basic thing you need to know is command and zone concepts mixed together. The corner has the number 1 receiver right there. Man-to-man, if that receiver goes anywhere past 10 yards.
Cats,
vertically
man. How you
straight
guys
to the field.
doing, man? Good morning. Oh, how you
Same thing
doing,
for the
mas?
safety right here. If this
Konnichiwa.
number 2 receiver was to go inside,
Konnichiwa.
or was to go up the field on a vertical route past 8 to 10 yards, or some teams do past linebacker level, your free safety would lock with inside leverage on number 2. So we have those 2 covered. Same thing applies on this backside. Now you'll see that the linebacker adjustment is different over here on the backside. That's because we're actually playing a variation of cover 4 on the backside called 2 read, which I'll cover a little bit later. So, but here's your basic alignment for cover 4 and how we match up against 4 verticals. So you can see it's a pretty good matchup.
I love y'all, man. Thank
Same
y'all,
way back
man.
Here with outside leverage, probably going to be forcing number 2 inside a little bit to give free safety a little bit of help. And right back here, the safety should be able to get inside of any kind of bender really easily.
Oh, look at that.
With the little linebacker slowly pulling underneath, making that quarterback throw over the top of it.
Man,
Hopefully right to where
this
safety's
is makes me
hands.
shine.
So, I think the next thing that you need to know about cover 4 is the concept that how different routes are played. So, if the number 1 receiver on either side was to go inside immediately, Our corner would drop and gain depth, look at number 2 for vertical threat. So basically, he would squeeze it down. If both receivers went in, he would squeeze down with it. However, he's basically got that deep fourth then, really. The next thing you need to know about cover 4 is what happens if, and you should know that the number 1 receiver immediately going to the outside doesn't happen very often. So, if he goes to the outside right away, we're thinking it's probably some kind of smash concept, so we're still getting depth with number 1, or with our corner up here, past that hitch. And we'll let the Sam or the Will even on the backside play that. So, now let's talk about the number 2. There's a lot more possibilities for him since he's kind of in space. The number 2 receiver, if he was to break to the outside, would basically be telling our free safety that he needs to work to number 1. If this receiver breaks the outside, we're expecting some kind of curl concept, or some kind of dig concept, something like that, that's supposed to fill in where the safety isn't. So our safety is going to try and route the curl, corner's going to stay on top of it, in case it's a post. The Sam linebacker is in a great spot to play number 2. He will gain depth until the quarterback commits his shoulders to throw. He will gain depth and then take a good pursuit angle, aiming to force that receiver out of bounds, keeping his outside arm free. On the backside, if we get the same concept, now this is a little bit different because this is 2-read. 2-read is a slight variation. In cover 4 over here, these guys are looking at their respective receivers for their initial reads on whether it goes outside. Here, both the corner and safety are looking at number 2 and 2-read.
Get it on my face. Somebody got to get up.
Basically, we're looking to see if he takes an outside. Bubble to the outside. Whatever. Our corner would gain depth, and as soon as he's about to cross the face or does cross the face, depending on the athleticism of your corner versus the number 2 receiver, he would break to the outside. The same kind of concept as the Sam linebacker over here, keeping his outside arm free. He's basically your contained player. Basically your contained player. So your rover then, as soon as he sees number 2, he needs to gain depth right away, and he needs to start playing the post. You see I drew him a little bit over the top of this, because if he goes to the post, this rover, this safety is the only person who can play it. Now, some people might say, well, you're opening up the curl right here. That's fine, I don't want to give up big points. But also, my will linebacker is looking at number 2. My will linebacker will see that number 2, and he will drop into the curl vicinity. He won't care so much about the flat route because the corner's taking that. He can fill underneath. So your 2-read side linebacker, whether it's your Will, Mike, whomever, will need to play the curl area if number 2 goes out. Also, if this turns into a dig or something else over the middle, that quarterback's going to throw over the Will's head, which is a tougher throw, especially at the high school level. I don't expect to see many guys complete that pass. The next thing that you need to know about cover 4 is what happens if that number 2 receiver breaks to the outside. If that number 2 receiver breaks to the outside, the safety's got a couple of different things you can do depending on game plan, depending on personnel. So let's just imagine right now we're talking about cover 4 side. And this number 2 receiver goes inside, our Sam linebacker squeezes him down, all right? And he then balances out. He will not chase him. He will gain depth, expecting some kind of crosser over the top or something like that. So that way the quarterback has to make a tougher throw. Our free safety, when he sees number 2 to go inside, can do 2 things. And I'll draw that with number 1 right now. The free safety can either melt the deep third, which would essentially guard against the deep post. It'll basically cap that route if you're familiar with that term. The next thing that the free safety can do is he can rob the post or the curl, depending on what the game plan is and depending on what this corner is doing. So if this corner is staying over the top, it might be good to play it inside of that post. I like the idea of playing the post, like I said, because points lead to losing. So that's why we either have him blend the deep third, or if we're very confident that he's going to be doing some kind of post, we might try to rob instead. That way we at least have a chance at a big play. On the backside then, we can't do that same thing where he melts to the deep third. If this safety melts to the deep third of this concept, well, we'll have 2 people there. So the next thing that we need to do is if we have an inside route by him, I like to actually have this backside safety going into the boundary, combo number 1, corner stays over the top of all in breaking routes, he will rob all in breaking routes. If you don't want to do that, the next thing you can do is have him rob high to low. He sees this coming, sometimes you'll have on this other side a dig, or you'll even have a quick in out there, so you can sit high to low over the top, and you have a chance to play that route better. Next thing to know is obviously with these 2 receivers breaking in, the linebackers become very involved. you need to understand that these linebackers are playing high to low. If there was a big concept, they would let the drag go underneath. They would not chase the drag because as soon as they do, it opens up a lane. We don't know what the safeties are doing on the back end. You can make calls, but the fire of a game, sometimes some things get lost. If that safety's playing against a better athlete, he might not make his call as loudly as possible because he's too worried about getting his butt after him. The thing you should know also about cover 4 is what this halfback does. This is the number 3 receiver in this concept. If we had on this backside to the read side some kind of concept where number 2 ran a wheel and he ran a post, sometimes we've got a team that will do another wheel behind that or some kind of flat route. This wheel linebacker has number 3 locked pretty much man-to-man then. He sees number 2 go outside, that's his primary form curl flat concept. He will immediately go at a good angle to cut off number 2 if he's running a wheel. I will let him throw that flat route and we'll rally to that, but we have to play the wheel. We have to be conscious of playing that wheel to get a good path to it. This Mike linebacker needs to open up with his hips for a lot of teams to the number 3 side. It fits into the boundary. You can do it by game plan if they release their backs and stuff like that. So you can do a lot of things with the Mike linebacker, in my opinion. But the basic thing is if you were to get some kind of verticals like this, where you got 5 verticals, I guess. Not that I've seen that, but just in case, this Mike linebacker would take number 3. So I hope that explains the basics of cover 4 and what it can do well versus a 2x2 set out of the spread gun. The thing that you should know is there are some weaknesses. One, obviously, if you get multiple vertical routes or crossing patterns. Vertical routes meaning if we get post, and let's say some kind of, swing going across the quarterback's body here or something like that. You need to make sure that we're playing inside leverage on both these guys. These guys have to be good enough athlete to match up. If you have a weaker athlete, you're going to be put in a bad position. The next thing you need to worry about is routes that are supposed to get in that little read area. They're supposed to confuse people. Basically, one really famous one is what I like to call the pound concept. Some people call it wire, or a read concept. Basically, he sits right at about 8 yards, and he will break off the leverage of this free safety and that Sam linebacker, and they're hoping that outside leverage. That's a very famous concept.
Fuck!
It is in Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Right there, man.
But I'm glad to be back. What we're going to talk about today is a little quarters coverage, robber coverage, run and pass, and then we have some man stuff on here too. But we can talk about anything you want. First thing I was going to talk about, that we talk about on defense, is we have this stuff hanging up all over the place about low to the ball. We want our guys to dead if they are low to the ball. One thing how we practice is defensively, because the ball is being snapped so quickly now in college football. I'm sure it's coming your way. If it's not already, Chip Kelly, he screwed up the whole thing by how fast it's all going now. And so our offensive practice, they're running 2 huddles at us on defense. We're in 1 huddle. We're not in any huddle. We're lined up. They're running 2 huddles as fast as they can go. We got this spring 11 plays in 5 minutes every 5-minute period. So it was kind of crazy. So loafing became a big deal for us, something we really spent a lot of time on. If I can see on film, they can change speed at any time in the play. It's a loaf. Obviously, spreading the ball, getting passed by a teammate, any guy gets passed up by another guy on his team, he's loafing. Staying on the ground, that's one thing. We got to Maryland.
He came back outside. He said, "Well, outside, but if I put it inside, that means that's 2 points
he's on the ground until the next play." So, that's one that I think really prevents a lot of big plays and really shows what kind of team you're going to be on defense. Turning down a hit. We consider a low, the guy has a chance to blow a guy up. We consider that a low if he doesn't. And then looking back at the kick, that's part of our special teams.
Look at that, how you doing,
all
man?
our guys,
Game, man.
Our special teams coordinator coaches on defense. All of our special teams guys are on defense. So anywhere we can get the defensive things in there. So
thank you.
Our robber coverage, 4/4 half coverage is really a 9-man front. We're going to play it to stop the run. We're going to screw both of our safeties down in there tight.
I love it.
And we put a little bit of pressure on the corners, I would guess that you would say, because we expect those safeties to be hard run deep. We can set our front, you can see up here, we have the,